Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Marsh, founder and head of strategy at MDB, and welcome to the Ilities. Today, I'm featuring an excerpt from an interview I had with Preston Blevins. He's a supply chain consultant with many years in industry. And for this particular excerpt, I'm going to have him just give us an overview of what I call the ESG map. This is a visual diagram that allows you to understand how the different ESG or sustainability reporting criteria and methods and bodies all kind of connect together. It's a real demystifier, if I may say so myself. So I hope you enjoy the excerpt, and if you like, go ahead into the Ilities channel on YouTube and you can watch the full video interview. Okay, let's have fun.
Yeah, my name is Preston Blevins, and just a quick background. I started out as a practitioner, as a machinist, that soon wandered into production inventory control. And the next thing I knew, 5 or 6 or 10 years later, I was a plant manager and worked in a variety of different industries, basically ones that had to do with metals. In fact, my last job as a practitioner was with a alloy manufacturer. I'll start with what is a common abbreviation today is ESG for environmental, social, and governance. And that's kind of populated everybody's mindset, pretty thoroughly. They don't really know what it is, but it's really buckets in which things that deal with performance measures have been developed that are appropriate for environmental, for social, and for governance. But you push your information into those buckets. So we'll get on with that in a minute. There is one other addition that I really propose that makes it more people, planet, and profit. And that is the SCORE framework. It deals with efficiency, it deals with agility, it deals with risk, and it directs you towards sustainability. It has GRI, which doesn't mean much to people, perhaps when they're listening, and it also has the UN Sustainable Development Goals embedded in it, and probably on the way to putting SASB in there. But the point is that it allows you to architect your supply chains, do a diagnostic and architect them. And now we have people, planet, and profit. So just a little side point. There is a foundational piece. There actually is 2 foundational pieces. And the first one I'll go over is the GHG protocol. They are the gold standard, accepted by everybody. And this is an example of all the reporting standards or quasi-reporting standards or authoritative sources that are viewed as a standard. For example, EPA isn't a standard per se, but they enforce law. They create performance metrics and they enforce a law.
What about SDGs? Because they are not GRIs or SASBs as I know them. How would you characterize an SDG, a UN SDG?
Well, yeah, we have it on our schedule, but when we get to my little SIG here, but
okay.
SDGs to me are, if you look at the first occurrence of ESG, it was promoted in like 2007 by the UN. And I don't think they had much action. So around 2012, they came up with the SDGs. And 17, in my view, is that they're all good and they're a good place to start. And there's actually a whole set of tiering that goes on. And, it gets bigger and bigger, the more detail as you go down. So SDGs are a good exercise. And the point is that you can pick the ones that are appropriate to you because there's 17.
Yeah, I often caution industry members that you can't look at an SDG as a distinct thing, because often say if 12 is the one that's most pertinent, it's a common one for supply chains and manufacturing.
Right.
If you're making changes to improve your consumption and production, or production and consumption, which is, I think that's what number 12 is, it can negatively impact the other SDGs if you're not careful about what you're doing. So it's not a hey, let's go win at SDG 12 and 17 and 9 and 3. it doesn't work that way. You kind of
No,
have to look at it as a holistic system.
right,
Um,
right.
yeah.
That's the we haven't talked about the water footprint assessment, but the developer of that that assessment is all science-based.
Mhm.
And always eager to point out that there is a distinct relationship between energy, water, and emissions. And no matter what you do, that balance has to be maintained. You just can't think
Right.
of it being as there's no 100% win-win. It's it's kind of a balance thing.
Yep.
And I'll comment on that in a minute. But I think SDGs are nice, but I don't think major corporations will probably use them. They'll probably use GRI and SASB and TCFD, but GRI, which normally when I would go through that history, I'd spend maybe a couple minutes describing it. But GRI started out by accident because they had a calamity in Alaska, an oil spill, and they were after transparency.
Okay.
Transparency. And so GRI is the most implemented standard globally. And it really is, well, I'll get into what it does in just a minute. SASB, I mentioned that it's about sustainability and accounting standards. And this really one gets more specific because SASB has 77 profiles or templates. So it's easier for people to report to based on their industry. They pick a proper template. And TCFD is really the investors concerned about. They don't want to be lied to. They don't want greenwashing going on. So this is something where it pushes those who are publicly traded to have this report because they have to disclose. But also now the trend is private companies also are being pushed into doing that. But here's just short definitions of what I think all these do. Regulator, EPA, you may say it's a regulator, but they make your life miserable because they could shut you down or penalize you or whatever. CDP does a lot of things. It's kind of the good old uncle that everybody likes. This is the 17 goals, SDGs. It's a roadmap to ESG. You could use that information. It could be an internal exercise. GRI is outbound. Anything that the corporation is doing that may impact the community, it's outbound and reporting on that, plus the positives, the negatives and the positives. And SASB, because it's financially oriented, they're worrying about disruptions from the outside coming in. So that's what SASB, and SASB is the one that has the 77 profiles.
Yep.
And TCFD is actually the investment community. Actually, was started by Bloomberg, but there is one wild card up there on the left-hand side called the water footprint assessment. It should have been the standard on par with the GHG protocol on water, but somehow it's recognized in the EU. In North America, we don't have much recognition of it, but it's quite spectacular in its applicability. It deals with the same logic as the GHG protocol, which is inheritance. So there's a ledger built up, and in both standards, there's a ledger built up in their methodology to where you always inherit the previous debt of either water or GHG emissions, and it rolls up to a final end amount.
Right.
So that's a very basic thing that needs to be reckoned with. This is how these funnel into the E side. All of them have a contribution in one way or another.
Right.
To decide, either strongly influenced by it or not. And before I get to the S and the G, I need to point out that everybody today has little preambles about some social and about a little bit of governance in them. The disappointing part is very seldom do you hear anything about leadership at the corporate level. So, but this is where it all fits in now. When it gets to social, these two have a stronger than usual impact on the social side from an information standpoint that they could funnel up, particularly GRI. And also on the governance side, TCFD cares and SASB cares, and actually so does GRI because they care about ethics and stuff like that.